Hey, welcome to Is Worth a Sandwich. I'm Zach Funk.
I'm Joe Kira.
And we just got back from seeing Mortal Kombat.
Yay, in post jokes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. We're going to be just kind of talking about it, reviewing it. The first half of the review is going to be spoiler-ish free, and then the second half we're going to go deep into the spoilers and kind of explain who some of the characters are if you didn't know them.
Exactly. So in the second half is when we talk about Bison showing up.
Exactly, which was, damn it, Zach, spoilers!
Game over!
Intruder destroyed.
So we freaking love this movie. Just to start, this one, as opposed to other Mortal Kombat movies, was rated R and actually, deserved that rating and, frankly, required that R rating.
Yeah, you're not going to find an alternate cut of this movie where they turn all the blood white and say it's sweat like the original game.
Yeah. So, I forgot they did that.
Yeah. There was
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, you had to do a cheat code to get the blood.
So, it very much lives up to kind of that R rating, and So Mortal Kombat has always been kind of, violent, but violent, silly sort of thing where it's never meant to be overly grotesque, even though it occasionally is, and this actually manages to, meet that expectation of the games.
It's taken to the extreme where it's beyond realistic. And it delves almost into, I don't want to say parody violence, but...
Yeah, exactly.
But it takes away the shock. It's not, all right, we're going to lay someone down on a table and slowly dissect them scientifically.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to cut them in half with a hat.
Yes. This is not Saw, this is not that overly, violence, which I hate. I hate that. But yeah, someone gets cut in half with a hat.
Yeah, they don't do the Saw stuff of here's a close-up of someone getting a thing in the eye, or...
Yeah.
The gore is there, but if you've played any of the modern video games, it's no worse than what you'd see in those. And if you've played the old ones, it's only worse because technology's better.
Yes. You don't no one gets punched into a bunch of bones.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
Punch bones.
Yes. I don't know, what else do you want to talk about in the spoiler-free part
in
of
the
this?
spoiler-free part, so first I'll just say I think the cast was great.
The cast was great. One of the main character is a new character to the series, which initially I was like, whatever, I'm not sure. But no, he did a great job. A good audience insert character who didn't feel out of place. Mm-hmm. This wasn't occasionally you'll get that audience insert character that's annoying and only there for exposition and sucks, but no, this guy, of all of the characters, got the most character development, probably because he needed the most character development. Mm-hmm. If I had to have one criticism of the movie, and this would really be my only big criticism, is... I felt that it relied on the audience for at least some of the minor characters knowing a bit about the world and kind of already being invested in Mortal Kombat. So if someone came into this fresh, not having experience, if this was their entry point, they would have been confused by some of it.
Yeah, they hint at things like, oh, Sonia and Jax are in the military together.
Yeah.
But, for example, how... they came to learn that Mortal Kombat was a thing. They say they've been tracking this for years. How did they first discover that?
Yeah.
That would have been just a neat thing of just a brief, an aside.
Well, they kind of did that.
They didn't go into a lot of details. So we were on a mission and we heard about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
A little bit more. We were on a mission and a crazy supernatural thing happened.
Yeah.
Or...
Well, they even said that they met someone with supernatural powers.
Yeah, I suppose. I sort of liked a little bit more...
Yeah.
Like to see that. Or to have just a little bit more elaborated than, here's a single line, there is no Pepe Silva wall.
Yes.
And then, by the way, other realities are a thing.
Yeah. And again, at that point you're thinking, oh, this is all crazy and everything, but nah, you just saw an ice ninja do things, and...
Yeah.
I don't know, I ended up really liking it. I felt that some of the characters could have been developed a bit more, but I kind of look at it as okay, here are the mooks that you're fighting. How much information do you actually need on them? kind of compared to the old games where it's just like, unless you were getting really deep into the lore and everything, it's just like, oh, here's a robot man who's here for some reason. You can look into it and on your own time get there, but just kind of see that, oh, here's this thing, there it is.
Yeah, you've got characters who are there because they don't need depth. They're there to make the main characters look better.
Yeah.
They are...
And at the same time, you could make a criticism that, like, I would have liked to have seen more character development on the villain side so that I cared a bit more about them, but at the same time, these are characters that exist there to be killed.
Yeah, like guy with a hammer, whatever his name is.
I looked him up. Recco, something like that.
Like whatever his name is. Like him. He is there to look imposing, to have a big hammer, to seem tough, and then lose.
Yes. Incidentally, that was also his part in the games.
Yeah.
Like specifically, spoilers for Mortal Kombat 4, I guess. At the end of his storyline, he walks through a portal and is gone, and that is the end, and all of the character development that character gets.
Yeah, and
at least in the initial ones. More complicated later, but yeah.
And you need characters that fill those roles in certain things. I know you hate it, but my love of pro wrestling. There's a long tradition of we're going to introduce a monstrous character, build him up just so the hero can defeat him.
Yeah.
That's what, you everything needs its jobbers. You need the people who are there to lose and make the people look better. Yeah.
Kind of at this point, I don't really think I can go on talking spoiler free.
I'll say the visual effects are really good.
Okay, fair. Yes, the visual effects are fantastic. The fighting is very realistic, it's weighty. Like, when someone gets thrown across a room, you believe they have been thrown across a room.
Yeah, I think the sets look good, the cinematography look good. Without going into plot type stuff.
And at this point, I'm tired of pussyfooting around it. We're going into spoilers free. Spoilers from here on out. This gets a recommendation from both of us. I would say a 4 out of 5 star.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great movie. Does what it set out to do. Is what it is supposed to be. And just a lot of fun. Great movie. Go see it. If you're not going to see it or you've already seen it, welcome to the second half of the video where we talk about spoilers.
Yeah. This is a movie that I hate the phrase like made for the fans and things like that.
Yeah.
But it kind of is. Like, if there was a certain point in the movie where I thought about the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie.
Yeah.
And the beginning song with the animated food telling you to shut up and watch the movie and don't think about it.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Don't talk, watch. You don't like it, walk out. Something like, if it doesn't make sense, we still have your fucking money.
Yes.
This is kind of one of those movies.
Yeah.
Where you're not going into it expecting, here's something about the depth of the human soul and the will to persevere and to save reality. It's Mortal Kombat. It's a thing that was designed to steal your quarters as a kid and get your parents upset that you went to your friend's house and played it.
Yes. But even then, as you say that's not what you're expecting, but then you also sort of get that. Like, the character who was it Hanzo, who eventually becomes Scorpion, is so well developed.
Oh, yeah.
He is just great. I loved his performance. He was fantastic. I will be upset when he does not get a Best Supporting Actor for Academy Awards.
Yeah. No, they did a good job of making everyone feel as real and lived in as possible.
Yeah.
Unless, because can we talk about the fact that this movie wasn't 2.5, 3 hours?
Yeah, it was. And again, it felt tight. Like, the downtime was there to give you a break between violence, develop characters, and kind of world build, and that's what it should be in kind of like an action fight-em-up movie.
Yeah, because this is the kind of movie where Yeah, they could have had, all right, here's 10 minutes of Guy with a Hammer's backstory.
Yeah.
And here's 10 minutes of Winged Vampire Girl's backstory. But
Natara is Winged Vampire Girl.
Yeah.
I will explain her very briefly. She is a vampire. She's from a different reality. And she can exist in Outworld, but if she goes to the real world, like Earthrealm, the sun will burn her up, and yeah, she is actually a vampire. Yeah. And in the Mortal Kombat universe, her race is the origin of vampires.
Okay. Yeah. And my point being, we could have taken the time to do all those things, but then we would have had a 2.5, 3 hour movie.
Yeah.
And not everything needs to be that. You're running into like some of the Marvel films. I love them, but they are a little too long at times.
Yeah. Or the DC movies that are 4 hours for no goddamn reason.
That's right. Listen, okay? I would have loved to have a scene of Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting in slow motion to Hallelujah.
Natara, the extent of her character development is Shang Tsung basically saying, look how beautiful she is, and talking about that. And it feels a little weird, but at the same time it's Shang Tsung, so, yes, he's evil, he's weird, and he's awful.
We're not here to kink shame sorcerers.
Exactly.
He will take our
And then, Rico, however pronounce his name, he was the big dude with a hammer. He is basically a mini Shao Kahn. Mm-hmm. That is the extent of his character in the video games. Yeah, that's basically it. He's Shao Kahn's mini.
No, I'm just imagining him slightly recast as the Bowser Jr.
Yes.
I'm just going to katana. Are you my mom?
But yeah, that's basically all he is in the games. He's not a character that gets a lot of development, and there's some weird stuff with it, but that's really all he is. And who are the other villains? Reptile is in there, and he is fantastic. That's one of the just more fun fight scenes in a movie with a lot of fun fight scenes where it's a
3-on-1 fight.
It's a 3-on-1 fight against an invisible enemy. And it actually works, and it's a lot of fun. And the only way they figure out how to beat him is they stab a flare, light the flare, and then stab him with it.
Yeah.
So that they can keep track of him, so they can keep punching him. And then Kano rips his heart out.
Yeah.
And then it's just holy, yeah, guys, look how cool I am. I just ripped this thing's heart out. And Sonia Blade, and what was the main character's name?
Cole Young.
Cole Young are just looking at dude, this guy just ripped the heart out. He's holding on to it. God, I hope he doesn't take a bite out of it.
And then he said Kano wins.
Yes! The biggest part, so I'm a big fan of the Mortal Kombat series. I sort of fell off after, a certain point.
Kind of around the time they rebooted everything.
Yeah, I was a really big fan of Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Well, Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I didn't play the one after that, but I was a big fan of the series. So I like how there's a lot of lore there that you can go and you can seek out in the games if you feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how this thing felt. Is that there's a lot more going on here than we're initially letting on. You can figure this out if you want to. If not, we're not going to punish you for not figuring it out.
Yeah, it works by itself. I think of it like when those big comic book crossovers.
Yeah.
And they'd have do you want to see what happens to this character more, or read so-and-so of their main title?
Yeah.
If you want a hand-in-hand story, it's out there. You don't have to.
Yeah, and that's kind of how Mortal Kombat has always been. Is that if you want to get the most out of the story, you got to work for it.
Yeah, you got to play through every character's damn thing.
And figure out and piece things together. And I've always kind of liked that degree of storytelling. Again, it makes you work for it. Now, does that necessarily work in the movie? Who cares?
Yeah, the movie, they explain enough.
They explain enough that you can just sort of go through and figure it out.
Yeah, here are two sides that are going to fight. One review I read was complaining that why does Shang Tsung finally now get the idea to ignore the rules of the tournament. And that's like that because that's just the plot of the damn game.
Well, specifically to counter this review that I haven't read, he hasn't. He has been cheating the whole time. There is a damn line where he says, I've won 9 in a row. I haven't won 9 Mortal Kombats in a row by playing fair.
Yeah.
He's cheating. He's doing all that. He just gets away with it.
Because he's the bad guy, and he'll eat your soul.
The one thing that I wasn't as sure of, but I did kind of like in the end, was that they killed Kung Lao kind of at the midpoint of the film.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hero's lowest point right before they, get the plan to do what they're going to do and to kind of like host the Mortal Kombat tournament themselves.
I was really glad that they didn't kill Cole's wife or daughter. That felt like such an obvious tropey choice. It's called fridging.
Yeah, which again is funny, which they kind of then did that, but then didn't follow through.
It's true. They do get encased in ice.
Yes.
You are correct, sir. But the whole thing throughout that movie is, everyone has to unlock their power, and the most obvious tropey thing for Cole is, I can't unlock my power, my wife and or daughter has been killed, now my grief shall unlock my power!
And they didn't do that, and you're afraid they're going to, and it's almost like Mortal Kombat is aware of, well, obviously they're aware of that trope and kind of purposely subverting it, because it's like his family is in trouble. He's barely holding on, and then Goro goes after his family, and it's that lets him go on, and that because it was very much in his character, because he did all of the stuff he was doing. He fights for his family. He goes and gets the shit kicked out of him for $200 a night because it helps him feed his family, and doesn't really have another option for it. And
yeah, and you can tell that they acknowledge he at one point was like a well-renowned fighter.
Yeah.
And then just, went down and never got back. And
yeah, and it's a good... he has a really good arc, and I like his arc. And again, like you just said it, but I'm so glad that his family lives through that, because it's just... It gives you that kind of hope at the end of that, and it would have been a worse movie if they had killed his family, and they made a good choice not to. Because
the thing with any movie like Mortal Kombat, or really any video game movie so far, you inherently go into it expecting the cheapest plot, the worst writing, the laziest outcome each time, and to see that not every single thing was the laziest choice.
Yeah. Also, just I will be upset if I forget to mention this, and it just came to mind. We also now get to acknowledge Chekhov's gnome statue.
Yes, Chekhov's gnome statue.
So there's a point where just this little gnome statue in Katana's front yard. Sonia's front yard is acknowledged. Kano spits on it. And, you can tell Katana's, a little annoyed. I like that.
Keep calling her Katana!
Sonia.
Katana's not even in the movie.
No, she's not. And just, Sonia's kind of is that, oh, man, I like that gnome. He spit on my gnome. And then, later on in the film, the two of them are fighting. Sonia and Kano, because obviously Kano turns evil. That's kind of his whole thing.
Well, he was evil from the start.
Fair enough. But he decides to side with the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then they're fighting. It's this big knockout thing. Kano at this point has unlocked his powers. And Sonia is able to kind of use her special ops training, do all of the stuff that she's supposed to do, and manages to beat him, and eventually kills him by grabbing that garden gnome and jamming it through his eye.
Yeah, the eye.
That was awesome.
And that was his power eye, his laser eye.
Yes,
which I loved.
It was so silly, but it was so good.
And even his reaction of, I got a laser eye, just.
So the thing that I kind of, going off of the laser eye and everything like that, the thing I end up loving about Mortal Kombat, just as a series, is it is very silly. It mashes a lot of just weird, different genres together, where it's got mysticism, it's got robots, it's got ninjas, it's got magic, it's got gods, it's got all this cool, crazy stuff. but it always takes itself seriously. Like, it doesn't... Like, there are parts where it kind of turns and winks at the camera, but, like, it takes itself seriously, and it doesn't, like... It doesn't make fun of itself. It's not self-deprecating.
No, now, a thought I had after we had seen the film was, in terms of the powers that we were talking about, like Kano's I-beam, is that I thought it was neat that Jax's like karate robot arms got neat like as his power, but at the same time, it's if he hadn't lost his arms, what
would his power have become? So we'll go this very briefly. The people who were chosen to be in Mortal Kombat have this like mark on them that looks like the Mortal Kombat symbol, and they can fight and unlock special powers within themselves. When we meet Liu Kang at the very beginning, like Kano's about to give him shit, and then he just throws a fireball at Kano, and it's just a wonderful moment of like, oh shit, this is gonna be awesome. And then Kano's like, wait, am I gonna get superpowers?
Yeah, also, important note, if you kill someone that has a dragon mark, you get their dragon mark.
Yes, and that is why Sonia Blade eventually gets powers, because she kills Kano, gets his dragon mark.
And Kano killed somebody too.
Yes, and then shows up and immediately, like, gets these power rings that she shoots out and kills Molina with them, and it's just great, and I love it.
Yeah, I did have to question how she was able to shoot through her center, but leave the spine.
I do not question that.
It was a great visual. Just the idea of like Sonia's things are really careful. Like, oh no, my powers don't work on bone.
But it was such a good like moment there, and it was just a lot of fun.
Quick, punch me into bone so Sonia can't hurt me.
There is a character that's like that, so they would be immune to Sonia, unless, she punched him for real. Because she was also very good at doing that.
Yeah.
Sonia Blade's character was also very interesting in the movie, as she starts off without the dragon mark sort of thing, and is kind of told she's a liability, is very much put down by everyone else, there by, Liu Kang, Kung Lao, and Raiden, saying, like, you don't really belong here, you're a liability in this tournament if you don't have powers, and all this stuff. And for a bit, it kind of feels like they're just being shitty to her, and then you're like, oh, right, she's eventually going to kill Kano and get powers and come in. It kind of just, I don't know, I understand the choice.
In a different context, it's almost like they treat her like she's the one woman in the party.
Yeah, I know. It was such a good film.
Yeah.
Like, what it set out to be, it managed to accomplish. There's a thing my dad keeps saying about movies, often ones that were not very good, is it didn't know what it wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Mortal Kombat straight up knew what it wanted to be. It was going to be silly, it was going to be over the top, it was going to be violent, and it was going to revel in that violence, but, like, I hesitate to call it gratuitous.
Yeah. Well, because, like we said, like the Saw movies tend to be more gratuitous because it's about the suffering and extending the suffering.
Yeah, where Mortal Kombat, like, a guy's head gets... Jax kills Rico, dude with the hammers, kills him by crushing his head, and it's like, oh, that was awesome, that was a cool thing to have happen, but, like, I didn't feel it was a gratuitous moment.
Well, because also it's an instant death, it's not about prolonging the suffering.
Yeah, that's fair.
If like some of the fatalities in the games, the only thing that remotely would be like prolonging the suffering was Vampire Lady getting cut in half, but at least he started with her head.
Yes.
So there was no feeling as the rest of her.
So again, and that is actually a perfect thing. Kung Lao is fighting Natara. God, I hope I'm saying that name right. I'm sure the internet will tell me if I'm wrong. And like it's this really just very short fight. She's coming in to like grab him, and it's like, oh, I think it's going to be bad. He throws his hat in the ground. It starts spinning when he, uses his power to make his thing spin. Jumps on her back and then rides her into the spinning hat blade, cutting her in half, and then he says flawless victory, and I'm like, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's just like you can look at it in the sense of who was he talking to? Was he saying that to himself?
Yes, I believe that was him saying that to himself.
Yeah, or you can just say, "Damn, that was awesome and that was fun."
Yeah, and it was so good, and
this isn't a movie set out to win Oscars or to highlight someone's amazing acting chops, or people did a good job with what they were given.
Yeah.
But this isn't something where, like, people are going to pull a monologue from Mortal Kombat to audition for things.
No, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But, like, I loved, but, like, Scorpion, the guy, again, Scorpion's performance was fantastic. He was probably, again, in a good movie, the highlight of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, I mean, I was really excited because I loved him on Westworld. And he did a great job. The guy that was Sub-Zero did a great job.
The main character was great. Sonia was great. I loved Sonia.
Yeah.
Jax was very believable, and like again, his arc is basically like, I'm gonna protect you. Oh no, my arms. Oh no, my weak robot arms. Yeah, I've got cool robot arms now. Crush your head. Was the extent of his arc, but that was also all you really needed from him.
Exactly. Also, I didn't realize that. The guy that plays Jax is in the DC CW shows. He's Jimmy Olsen.
How does that work?
It's weird, and I didn't watch a lot of Supergirl. But just the idea of Jax and Jimmy Olsen being the same person. Superman's pal, Jax.
Now I watched that show. Oh wait, we have that game. I thought it was alright.
Everyone that was cast did their job well.
Yeah, that would actually be the biggest thing I would say on this film is whoever the casting agent was, good job. I'm glad you're working.
Yeah, there wasn't any, like, even if you watch the first one, it was a lot of just very wooden acting. It was, we're going to cast stunt people and hope they can talk. And this one, like the guy that plays Cole, is someone who is both trained as an actor and a martial artist.
Yeah, he was, who was he in?
He was the drunken master guy in Iron Fist.
So he was the single best part of Iron Fist.
Yeah, and he auditioned to be Iron Fist. Marvel was like, nope, sorry, we gotta cast this Game of Thrones guy because he's gotta be white for some stupid reason.
Yep. But, like, I don't know, like, I can't wait to see... I'm so psyched to see the sequel, because the visual effects in this were great. So there's a moment in one of the X-Men movies where, like, they're saying it's like, oh, what's with all the black leather? And it's like, oh, what would you have preferred, yellow spandex? And at the time, it was like, oh yeah, that'd be silly. But then, Marvel makes their movies and, like, Thor looks like Thor.
Yeah.
And Captain America looks like Captain America. And things are big and wild and crazy. And you're like, oh, people will just accept big, wild, and crazy. I can't wait to see the next one of these because there's a lot of characters in Mortal Kombat that, using this style, are going to translate really well to film. Yeah. I can't wait to see Kenshin, the blind samurai with telekinesis. He's going to be really fun to see.
Yeah, and you can tell it's not just going to be a bunch of palette swap ninja outfits.
Yeah.
That's, Scorpion and Sub-Zero look very distinctly different. And they got away from that later in the games.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. But it was just, I mean, I don't know if this is going to get a sequel or not, obviously. It just came out today in theaters and HBO Max.
Yeah. But if you have the opportunity to watch it in theaters safely, you should do that. You're going to have a better time doing that because it's big, it's exciting, it's great. But please be safe. If you can't watch it in theaters, watch it at home on the largest screen you can.
Also,
do not watch... For the love of God, please do not watch this on your phone.
Yeah, and do you want to take actually a moment to talk about our first experience of going to see a movie in over a year?
Oh my God. So the last movie I saw was Birds of Prey, which I loved.
Yeah.
But it was great to be in a theater, to hear people laugh and gasp alongside you. Just, like, for a while, several years ago, I went to the theater probably about once a week, and I loved it. And I'm so I am just so happy that I can do that again.
And it was a very nice setup of intentionally left open seats. There was hand sanitizer all over the place. Just
not all over the place. At places that you.
That's what I mean. It wasn't like Slimer had come through and oozed everything. That's not what I mean. You're not going to come out of this place reeking of alcohol unless maybe they have a bar. This one doesn't.
Well, it does, just not at this time.
Okay.
And it only has margaritas, which is fine, because that's what I want when I go to the movies.
But it was very well put together. We're both vaccinated, but it still felt safe.
Yeah. I think that's kind of mostly what I wanted to talk about with Mortal Kombat. I wholeheartedly recommend this. I'd say it's a 4 out of 5 rating.
Yeah, I kind of go into it in the same way of when I see a comic movie, I try to look at it as a comic fan and as a fan of movies.
Yeah.
And there'll be sometimes like we're like, oh, as a comic fan, it was fun. As a movie fan, not so much, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like Man of Steel. If it's not a Superman movie, it's not bad. As a Superman movie, I absolutely hate it. For me, as a movie on its own, I would probably give it maybe a 7 out of 10. But as a fan of Mortal Kombat and video games, that bumps up to an 8.
Yeah, like I would say, without question, this is the best video game movie I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And again, that is a low bar to cross, but it just, at adapting Mortal Kombat, it does such a good job, and as good a job as it can. I am psyched for the sequel. Oh, the kind of, the sort of ending bit here is, they also managed to, while having it be kind of big and crazy and whatever, they kept the story small and tight, and that was what I really liked about it, is that, again, you didn't have as much time to develop everyone as possible, but you got to develop the characters that mattered.
And they held a lot back. You never actually see Shang Tsung or Raiden fight anyone.
Yeah, and because Shang Tsung is the villain, but he's really Sub-Zero is the main villain.
Yeah.
Of this particular movie, which again, when you're doing probably the first part of something, that makes sense to keep the stakes low, because once if it had been Shang Tsung and it had been crazy and all this stuff, there's no place to go. The only place to go then is have Liu Kang turn into a dragon and do a claymation fight.
and with it being Mortal Kombat, you don't really have the thing of oh, I wonder if they'll kill the villain or not.
Yeah.
You're not going to have someone give Shang Tsung a kiss and go, friendship, in the movie.
But it kept the cast small, which was good. And I would have loved to have seen Johnny Cage, but it's just no, fuck it. They reference him. They basically hint at that he's going to be in the next one.
I really hope they get someone ridiculous to play Johnny Cage.
Oh my god, yes.
Maybe even Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Just so many of these things worked, and it was very small, and it was a little weird that Goro was kind of the mid-tier boss. Goro was the fight that Cole used to kind of unlock his powers.
But he also that's kind of his role though. He is the sub-boss.
Yeah, to the main fight. But then, if you think about it, in the games, Goro is this big terrifying thing, and mostly he's terrifying because your projectile attacks won't work against him. But in reality, Sub-Zero is significantly more terrifying than that, than Goro ever would be, because Goro is big, strong, he's got 4 arms, and he's maybe 10 feet tall. That's cool, but
he's got to catch up to you. He's got to be able to actually hit you. Sub-Zero can just look at you and freeze your intestines.
Yeah, and just okay. I know we keep saying this at the end, but the sheer amount of the moves that the characters had getting used in the game was fantastic.
Do your uppercut.
Do your uppercut. Yes, that was great. Liu Kang doing the bicycle kick. He does it once, and it was great, and you were just so happy to see it.
Liu Kang spamming the trip attack.
That was the best. Oh my god! That was fantastic.
Because that was the cheapest thing to do in the games. Is just gonna spam the trip attack and whoop, whoop, whoop.
And just, he does that to Kano. He trips Kano 3 times, and then Kano jumps over it once.
And he does it again anyway.
And it was just, like, as Zach had said, it was very much a love letter to the fans with that, of just getting to see all of these kind of cool things happen. Like, at one point, Sub-Zero makes an ice clone of himself and does a backflip.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was cool!
Yeah.
That was really neat to see!
When he's chasing them in the car, and he does the giant-ass hail.
Yeah.
Just, like, again, it was really neat seeing... Obviously, like, his powers get the most utilization.
Yeah, because people also, just because they're visual, they're interesting. As kind of said, this movie knew what it wanted to be. It knew its strengths, and it played to its strengths.
Yeah. Where
Sub-Zero has a lot of really neat, interesting things. So, let's make him kind of the main focus.
Yeah.
He's terrifying. And then just Scorpion, at the end where he rips off his mask, breathes hellfire at him, and then...
He has a line like, I have returned from hell to kill you, or something like that.
Yeah! If this hasn't completely convinced you to see it and enjoy it, I don't know what more to tell you.
That's right. Yes, it didn't have claymation. No one popped up and said, it's my animality.
Yeah. Jax at no point was just like, these are slowing me down, or whatever he said, and took his metal arms off.
And then had stumps. Another great thing we should actually talk about before we wrap up is the Easter eggs throughout it.
Oh, yeah.
Like getting to see Katana's fan. There was one point where there was graffiti, and I could see over, down, and something.
Yeah. which is just a thing there. The fact that, like, Nighthawk is referenced as an ancient fighter who protected Earthrealm.
Yeah.
And just, like, lots of little things that, if you're a fan, are really cool to see and are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And if you're not a fan, it doesn't matter and it doesn't detract from your enjoyment.
For example, there's one scene where Kano steals a certain piece of jewelry. I was like, oh, that's neat. And then Joe was like, oh my god!
Oh god, no! Kano, put that back! This is the most danger you're going to be in this movie! Put that amulet down!
You got stabbed in the face with the gnome, and this gem is still more dangerous.
Yes! It involves, what is it?
Quan Chi?
Quan Chi. Look him up if you want to. He's a good villain. I like him. I like him.
But yeah, there were just so many little things to keep an eye out for.
It was just fun, and I recommend it if you like the series of games or just anything like that. I can't recommend this highly enough.
Yeah.
It's just also it's a decent movie.
Yeah, I look at it in the same vein of like a lot of the Marvel Studios things, in the sense of, look what happens when you get people that actually like the source material to adapt it.
Yeah, it's they take time and care, and yeah, it was. I loved it. I can't wait. I hope they make more.
Yeah, we saw it theatrically day one, and I'm sure we will watch it at least one more time next month before it leaves HBO Max.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys.